All right. Back like I never left. So this is going to be part 2 to religion. I'm just going to entitle it Religion Volume 2. So the reason why I'm doing a part 2, just in case I wasn't clear in the first episode of religion, is because I left a big part out. So, and that was like the meaning. Now, in the first one, I stated that religion is a way, and that wasn't really specific. It was a way of living. It's what I wanted to really elaborate on. So, here's my chance to do so. So, religion is a way of living, and it is showed through the patterns of every branch of religion there is. Now, I'm not going to do as much as I did in the first one, which is elaborate on those branches, because I'm going to do those individually throughout other episodes. Now, before I dive deeper, I want to just put out there, I'm going to do a special episode probably tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I have no other choice because I'm doing other things Friday and Saturday. So I'm going to do an episode on Aaliyah, my favorite artist of all times. Her birthday is on the 16th, so I want to drop it on the 16th on that Pacific Day. So I'm definitely going to do that, something special. So if you an Aaliyah fan or supporter and you're listening to me, I'm with you. We on the same team here. So I'm definitely going to do that. So special, and I'm looking for it. So, and know it or not, Aaliyah definitely plays a big part in religion, spirituality, mythology. Her name alone, I'm not talking about her as a person. Her name, that's deep, and I'm going to get into that, and I'm going to make a separate video because a lot of people will be like, you praise Aaliyah. That's not the same one I'm talking about. So I'm going to make 2 separate episodes. I keep saying videos. Episodes on 2 different occasions. So January 16th, Aaliyah the singer, for as the Almighty go, Aliyah, that's going to be on the New Year's I celebrate, which is April 1st. And I will go to explain that later on. Y'all willing, I will let to see and do that. So, I really wasn't that far off because it does tie into the forbidden knowledge that I have and will share. So, yes, religion is a way of living, and it is shown throughout the characteristics of every individual. Speaking of Aaliyah, I'm going to make it general. I'm going to use artists as vocalists as an example. You can usually tell a vocalist background, church background, just by how they sing. Like Fantasia, I wouldn't be surprised if she grew up in a Baptist church because of how strong her voice is in the what Christians would call the Holy Ghost. It just overshadows. So I call it the R&B ghost, the R&B spirit. It has such a high vibration to when she sings. It can shake up your aura. It can shake up a building. Like, very powerful voice. Aaliyah, back to her, the singer, you can tell her church background is Catholic because she has more of a smooth tone. And I say have because although she passed away, her music is still alive. So, very much alive. And I appreciate the true supporters that's keeping her music alive because her estate, not so much. See, when fishy business happened in the past, it will show in the present. That's why it's so hard for her music all of her music to be on iTunes, to be on any social platform. But I'm going to try not to dab deep into that because I'm going to save it for tomorrow and then I will upload it on the 16th. But anywho, you can tell that her church background was Catholic because of that smooth tone she have. And I wouldn't be surprised if opera came or was influenced by Catholic vocalists. Opera is one of my favorite styles of singing. I really love the power that opera holds. If I'm not mistaken, Mariah Carey's mother was an opera singer. I wouldn't be surprised if Mariah Carey grew up Catholic as well. So I just want to tie that in, that you can visually see how religion play out in a lot of people's lives. And recently, it's a reason for everything, because I wanted to do this episode a few days ago, but I procrastinated. In my eyes, I procrastinated, but overall, the Almighty, like, timing is a part of everything. I wouldn't say it's everything, but it's a part of everything. So everything happened for a reason. I saw this TV show 2 days ago. It was advertised, called American Gods. And I'm like, that's an interesting title. And I like the imagery that I saw, the cover of it actually. And so I'm like, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna see, because I like what I'm liking the advertisement. So I saw the first episode, because that's how I based if I like something or not, just by the first episode. And it was very intriguing. I'm like, okay, I like it. Let me continue to watch it. And I became addicted since. I finally caught up, and season 3 just came out January 10th. So I would recommend watching it. It's very intriguing. If you comprehend parables, then that's the show for you. If you're not really good at catching parables, then you're not gonna quite get it, because it really does go down the timeline of religion in America. That's why it's called American Gods, because it really it gives you a time travel of the different evolution of gods and how they displayed in America. And I feel like it was perfectly done, whoever the writer may be. I can look the writer up. Let me see. Can I do that right quick? I want to look up the writer of the show, because I love giving credit when credit is due. Let me see right quick. And excuse the noise in the background. My uncle's snoring. Alrighty. And it should be popping up in 5. Ooh, Neil Gaiman. I'm not really good with names. Neil. Well, Neil Gaiman. Neil, you a phenomenal writer. Thank you for writing this story out and turning it into a series. Appreciate you. So, because it really helped me out with today. And I had no intendance of including my perspective of that show on here. And it just happened. It felt right in alignment. So here am I, just flowing with what I'm learning and proceeding as to know. So, anywho, my perspective of the show is basically the point that I'm trying to get across now, is that religion is exactly that. And I want to keep repeating it, because the more I repeat it, the more I get deeper into it. Religion is a lifestyle. And I mentioned ideology in the first episode. Ideology form its way into reality. So I will also include the term fragment. Religion is a fragment of one's imagination flipped to reality. That's how I will settle with my perception of religion. So as I was watching the show American Gods, I'm like, it really taps into just not America. And anybody that been watching my episodes know I do not call this country America. I'm just calling it America for the sake of the show. Because the original name of this land is called Turtle Island. So I'm going to do a whole different episode on that. And one thing that I found very, very interesting about American Gods is that they started the show off, the writer started the show off with narrating how the Europeans came over the first time to this indigenous land, and basically how they conquered over the years. I'm like, wow, that very interesting. It was a lot of parables. It is a lot of parables in the show, which confirms my perspective. You can either take my perspective as it is or filter it like a lot of people do. And like I said, it's a fragment of the imagination's transformation to reality. So I don't want to lose focus. But one thing I will say is that hold on, because I'm reflecting right quick. There was a lot of riddles, a lot of parables within the show, and one of the characters in the show said that God only exists. Okay, I'm not going to say it in their exact words because their exact words is not coming to my mind, but I can tell you how I felt after hearing it. So I felt like the person was saying God only exists because we remain curious as to how life came about. That was the exact same intent that person was getting at. So I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. God only exists because the flesh remains curious as to how life came about. So that's why you have some people who worship bulls. You have some people who worship cats. You have some people who worship elephants. You have some people who worship the sky. You have some people who worship the sun. You have some people who worship the moon. And if you're not exclusively knowledgeable like I am, you will be isolated and sliced into one closed-minded, fixated mindset and be like, I don't get how a person can worship the moon. They so stupid. And I used to be one of those people. Like, how can this person worship this? You stupid. I don't worship material. I don't worship material things. I don't worship objects. I don't worship things at all. However, I can use things as tools, and that's totally different. Utilizing something and worshiping something is two different functions. So I'm like, I see why people worship it now because of the meaning behind it. It's not really the thing that they worship in, it's the meaning that they worship in. The meaning behind the worship is what they are worshiping. And I'm like, wow, that's deep. And that's deep. Once you learn that, you more open, and being open don't mean you acceptable of it, because I'm open to everything, but I'm not acceptable to everything. Just like we are all connected, but that doesn't mean we are attached, because if that was the case, everyone would have the same mindset as me if we was all attached to one another. Attachment is like the song Move by Ludacris. When I move, you move, just like that. So that's the best way to explain attachment. When you move, that person move. The algorithm is the same. It's like what is it? See, I'm trying to rush my brain. I can't do that. It's not that I can't, I shouldn't. It's like a parallel. I might be using the wrong term, but you get my drift. The algorithm match is the same. So that is what attachment is. Connection is, we have similarities. There are similarities. That doesn't mean those similarities are attached. Like, for example, me and my mother, both have tempers. This is a beautiful example. I wouldn't say beautiful, it's a good example. Me and my mom both have tempers. So that's not an attachment, that's a connection, that's a common ground we both share. If we were attached to the exact same thing we have in common, when she's angry, I'll be angry too. So we are not attached, we are connected. It's a difference. So we connected to that same energy, anger. The only difference is everybody have anger in them, and just the amount of how you conduct it. And that is where I'm getting at. We both have anger. I wouldn't say issues. Yeah. Okay, you can say that, but in this scenario, I want to say we both have the energy, the power to be angry. The difference is she formulates her anger differently than I formulate mine. She get angry. She's very impulsive when she's angry. I'm very calculated. I can withhold my anger. I can transform my anger into something else if I'm aware of it. If I'm not aware of it, I allow myself to feel, but I have to have a certain amount of control to isolate myself if necessary. If something traumatic has happened or something to that, intent. So how we go about our anger is totally different. So I'm just using those examples to better illustrate my perspective about religion. And I say my perspective because not everyone have an exclusive perspective like I. So I'm very mindful of that. I wasn't always mindful of that. I was closed-minded and fixated in my earlier years of living. I'm saying it like I'm an old woman now. I'm 24. I would definitely say that I'm growing, though. I'm growing, like comparing myself now to 2 years ago or even a year ago. I have improved. So, hey, wisdom is what I call it. Back to the matter. Connection and attachment is just two different scenarios. I might have mentioned this in another episode, I'm not sure, but I'm going to say it again if I already said it. Summer Walker has 2 Instagram accounts. R&B singer, by the way, just in case for those who may not know, who may have been living, I wouldn't say under a rock. Let me stop saying that. Because just because you don't know of someone, that don't mean. And that was like figuratively speaking. So don't take that literal. Just like the Bible, you're not supposed to take the Bible literal. You're supposed to take the Bible as a parable, as it was set out to be. Ding-ding-ding. So, but hey, to each his own. Can't force no one. Although people can, there's different types of force. You have passive aggressive force, and then you have aggressive force. I don't like neither one. I got tricked and bamboozled when it came to force because it was in a passive aggressive way, very slick, persuasive way throughout religion in particularly. So before I get off track, I want to talk about Summer Walker right quick and then get back. Yeah, it ties in. She has 2 Instagram, have 2 Instagram accounts, and I think it's called Galistic. She got this called Galistic Horror or something like that. I'm like, what? What's the name? But she's talking about a lot, where she displaying a lot of knowledge on that page. And was it religion? Well, it had to be if I'm talking about her on this episode. Her what is it called? Her bio. So in her bio, it says, connected to everything, attached to nothing. I love that quote. So that's where I got that quote from. If anybody asks me not previously, but like moving forward, if anybody asks me, hey, where you get that? Because I'm going to be saying this quote a lot. I'm like, I got it from Summer Walker. I don't see that on her page. You need to go on her other page. So it's connected to everything, attached to nothing. When I first read that, I'm like, yo, I really love that quote. I'm going to have to use that quote. And she probably got that quote from someone else. Either way, that's where I saw that. That's where I would give my credit to. Yeah. And it fits perfectly to what I'm getting at, because it ties into religion in a major way. A lot of people are attached to religion, not connected. It's a difference. I used to be attached to religion until I evolved and became connected. So when you evolve, you can be both, but you will be caught up in a whirlwind, tossed here to there to everywhere. It would be a very very depressing state to be in. To be attached and trying to be connected at the same time. So, and you might even confuse the two. So it's confusion overall with trying to battle with both. Knowing both is beneficial rather than participating in both. So I'm going to talk briefly on the experience I had with the attachment of religion. My attachment with religion was more so of me feeling like, okay, here's a perfect example. If the pastor was stressing out about something, I can feel the energy and I will instantly feel stressed as well. That's attachment. That is unhealthy. And let me tell you why. Because what that person is stressful about have nothing to do with you. Or if it does, that's still a worry, because just because one person handles something a certain way doesn't mean you have to handle it a certain way. Clearly, if it's hurting you, that means that's your nerve system trying to tell you there needs to be some type of reevaluation in how you respond to things. Because you shouldn't feel stressed about certain matters. Or if you do feel, I wouldn't say you shouldn't feel stressed about certain matters, because overall speaking, stress can dwell anywhere if you allow it, or if you don't get a handle on it. So that I will say, there must be a handle on stress. You shouldn't let it dwell. You should, what's the word that I'm seeking? Well, what I said a few seconds ago, there needs to be some form of reevaluation, but you first have to be aware of what's going on within you, within your reaction of things. So it's not that you should suppress it and throw it away and forget that what you're going through. No, that's not the case. Reevaluation, be more solution orientated and not problematic. So I say that to say this. And just not like the pastor can just, I was just using the pastor as an example. It can be somebody in the congregation. If they stressed out about something, everybody, you can like feel the energy, and then everyone in there will feel, oh yeah, I'm stressed out too. I feel it. That's attachment. Connection is, I recognize that. I recognize that stress. I be stressed, and I experience stress too. I'm still experiencing stress. And I said chest stress, but the only difference is I have more of a hold on it rather it having a hold on me. That is where I was getting at. Whew, thank you, Aliyah. Thank you. That's where I was getting at. So have a hold on attachment. Don't let attachment have a hold on you. That's where the balance come in at. Have a hold on connection and attachment. Know what to connect to. Know what to attach yourself to. If you're going to attach yourself to anything, attach yourself to whatever you please. I was just about to tell you, that's not my place to tell anybody what to attach to. What I attach to is the air that I inhale and exhale. And that right there, my dear, is the description of Aliyah. Let that sink in. So that is what I attach myself to. For its connection, I use what I'm connected with as tools to improve, not necessarily as to Russia. But when you don't grow to that level of the independence, the opposite of independence is dependency. So what you're not aware of activation or not willing to activate, you will put in someone else's hands to do for you. This is something else that I notice about religion, because once again, I want to keep reminding myself, keep putting it out there that religion is a way of living. And the reason why I say a way of living and not the way of living is because there's multiple branches of religion. I already went over there in the first episode. You can go back and play it. I would recommend people listen to that one first, then this one. Or whichever people prefer. You know, you come across what you come across. So, yeah. There's different branches. That's why I say religion is a way of living. And this is not me guessing. This is not me believing. I evolved from a believer to a knower. I do know for a fact, just by tracing back the patterns, that a lot of people have their own perception of their way of living. That's why there is different branches to begin with. You had somebody that was probably once Hindu that decided, hey, I like Buddha's way better. You had someone that was Buddha that I feel like there's more out there than Hindu and Buddha. And they probably evolved and their perception of evolving, they probably traveled to and adapt to Confucius, Taoism, and Judaism, Christianity, Islam. You know, that's how all of them came about. That's how all of them came about. It was just a different way, a different perspective. Could they all be in harmony? Yes, that's possible. Are they willing? When people losing blood, I would say not everyone's willing to be in harmony. And what I mean by that is, some people are so fixated to the point that if you're not on the same, if you don't have the same stimulation mentally that they have, you will be looked at as a demon, as a Christian will call, specifically an apostolic Christian. Because I experienced apostolic, the mother of Christianity, which I'm going to elaborate on. And the episode of Christianity, I'm going to do a whole different episode on that one, child. Woo, there might even be a part 2. Pray for me. And let me not say pray for me, because there's really nothing to request or to ask. And to say pray for me is very crippled in a way, because it's like I have my own voice. I can't communicate to the Almighty myself. I need someone else to do it for me. So I wouldn't use first person. I can use first person in this scenario. I wouldn't ask no one to pray for me, because I have the ability to speak. That I will do. I don't need no one speaking for me. And that brings me to say, and I might be sounding like I'm rambling a little bit. However, I'm going to make it all make sense at the end. Hopefully I'm not going off to a different, I wouldn't necessarily say subject, but just all over the place. I hope I'm not doing that. So that brings me to the next to the next scenario about religion is that people have their different. Okay, let me slow my pace and really reflect on this. My mind just went blank, so I'm gonna have to trace back to what I just said. So I was talking about how, wow, my mind really did just go blank, because there's so much to talk about. There's so much, and I'm trying to force it all out at once, and it's like, no. That's why I said, okay, let me pace myself, let me slow it down a bit. See, I shouldn't say all these sidebars that I do. It can be overwhelming if I overdo it. And I just had a realizational moment. I do overdo it at times, and I need to stop doing that. Because I could have left that whole sidebar out and just finished what I was saying. Now I forgot. Not necessarily forgot, because I just discovered that when I perceive forgetting as forgetting, it's really not forgetting. It's just me suppressing my reflection of something to my subconscious rather than my conscious. So now I have to dig in my subconscious just to bring it back to the forefront, the conscious. So, okay. Let me try to remember. Well, try to go back to what I last remember saying. I was mentioning about the different, not necessarily different approaches. I didn't get to that part yet. So I talked about how to pass the attachment, try to use that as an example. Then Confucius, different branches. Okay, I mentioned apostolic. So let me talk about that then, because it's still not coming back to me. But I guess it'll come back through talking about apostolic. I'm going to do a whole episode on that too, because apostolic deserves its own episode. It definitely does. I am going to mention it a little bit in my Christianity video, because it's the mother of Christianity. How dare anyone mention Christianity without the mother? So let me talk briefly on it though for a little bit. Just like apostolic has its own way. And look at the other ways, it's imperfection in a way. Look at it, imperfection in another way. Now, some pastors may say they have certain tools that are great and should be used throughout every religion. However, there's only one right way, and that's the apostolic way. That's how they go about approaching it. So since I forgot what I was going to say about the other, whatever it was, that's where I'm going to stick it. That's where I'm going to leave it at. No, that's where I'm going to talk about then, the approach. So the approaches is different. Is it healthy? No, not all. Okay, so I feel it coming back to me. Differences can cause a conflict. And I did mention that we all can be in harmony. But it's all about the willingness of it. And everybody is not willing to be at peace with one another, because a lot of people be stuck in their own ways. And it's like similar to the movie The Matrix. If one person is you could be so attached, so caught up into a religion that you're willing to kill someone if they is against it. And that's a dangerous attachment to be a part of. And I was learning about attachment today unconsciously. Like I wasn't even I saw a video title that I found intriguing, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put this in my watch later list. I'm gonna watch it later. So I watched it a few minutes ago, if not 30 minutes ago to an hour ago. And I didn't even get this woman's name. Shame on me. Let me look for her name before I get to talking about the different types of attachments. Brittany Lee. So she's on YouTube. Subscribe to her channel, Brittany Lee. And yeah, one of the episodes that she talked about, what's the name of it? One of the videos she uploaded on YouTube was, oh my goodness, I'm not seeing it. Feminine energy. So she talked about feminine energy, but I'm not seeing the video. Oh, that's why it's in my watch later list. When it's in the playlist, they don't give you the title of the last video you saw. They just show you the thumbnail. So it said, unless you go in the playlist, which I just did. How your childhood messes up your love life. That is the video where she talks about the different 4 types of attachment, the different styles of attachment, which I'm going to talk about now from her perspective, basically. And she might have looked it up. This is, I wouldn't say, definitely not false. Real is practical. Practical is when actions plays a big part in it. And clearly, I've seen everyone she described in a lot of people that I've came across. So let me talk about the first one. Dismissive, avoidant attachment. The second one is fearful avoidant attachment. The third one is insecure anxiety attachment. Or anxious. So, insecure, anxious attachment. And the fourth one is secure attachment. So, dismissive avoidant attachment. Let me tie this. Now, she was talking about in relationships, but let me talk about this in religion. So, this is where me and her finna go totally off at. This is where the conversation ends from her video. This is where the content changes. So, dismissive avoidant attachment in religion. You can be a Christian, you come across a Muslim, and sometimes you can tell just how about what they wear, how they carry themselves, but on both ends. And you can instantly become dismissive. You don't look them in their eyes, you just walk straight past them, dismissive. Or they might bring up a different point of view or something, you bringing up a different point of view, and both of y'all like, I don't want to hear that. So you dismissing one another's perspectives, which is not the wisest thing to do, because the more perspective you have, the more you increase your knowledge. But that's another story. The more exclusive you are. At least if you're not going to be in agreement with someone, at least comprehend where they're coming from. Because it's not about forcing. Now, for me, I say for me because that ain't the case with everybody. Some people be trying to be passive aggressive, and I'm like, I feel that, but you can't play me. I'm not stupid. So that's my example of dismissive avoidance attachment. So going to the second one, fearful avoidant attachment. So it's like you fear. This is where I was at when it came to religion. I feared learning about other religions. I'm like, I don't want to go to hell, because that's what I was threatened with. And I'm quite sure the pastor like, blame God. God the one put it in the Bible. You know what? You're right. God did put it in the Bible. I know what God mean now. You're right. God put it in the Bible. Message. Now let me stop. Or should I not? Anywho. Fearful avoidant attachment. I was always scared to look deeper into religion. I'm like, nah, I want to go to hell. I feel like I'm a traitor to God if I do that. What got me out of that stage was rebellion, and I'm glad I rebelled against that fearful thought. Because if you want to have a true relationship with the Almighty, whoever y'all consider the Almighty to be, maybe you consider yourself to be the Almighty. There's people out here like that. I get it. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I get it. I get it. So, anywho, what got me out of that stage was rebellion. I'm like, what I consider to be the Almighty brought it to my attention through my vision that if you didn't take the risk on, okay, so like I said, through vision, so let me speak on that to better explain it. How I got out of that fearful stage of avoiding attachment to learning about the different other branches of religion. So the Almighty brought it back to how I got into the Apostolic Church. The Almighty was like, was you fearful of going there? I'm like, no, I wasn't threatened at first. I didn't know nothing about hell that much. I'm quite sure if someone told me, if you step in the Apostolic Church, you're going to hell, I probably would have never stepped a foot in there. But I didn't have nobody in my ear. I didn't read the book. I didn't know any chapters in the Bible. All I knew from the Bible was the name Jesus and the name Bible. That was it. And Satan exists. That's all I knew. I didn't know no scriptures. I ain't know no chapters. I ain't know none of that. So I'm like, and as I'm questioning these things, it was my inner voice that was saying this, which the Almighty uses to best communicate with us. And not only through our inner voice, but through our visions too. Pay attention to everything, because everything has a message to everything. Whether you're doubtful or not doubtful, it definitely has there's definitely a message to everything. So that rewinding it back to my first introduction of apostolic made me say, okay, what was the point? And the Almighty presented to me in a way where I'm gonna need for you to use that same energy, the energy of curiosity. You was curious, that's why you wanted to go to that apostolic church. When you step foot out of it for the first time, you know how you first go to a church for the first time and then service over? That's what I'm talking about. And I stepped out as, what they call it? Backsliding. That's what Christians call it. No, I ain't talking about backsliding. So my first time going to the church, when the service was over, after the first time, I instantly gained a different reason as to why I'm going now. And I didn't realize it until this very given moment. So I swear, and when I say I swear, I'm saying I'm being honest. I'm being very honest right now. That's how fast meditation works. That's how fast the Almighty works. And that's how I know it's the Almighty and not me, because the Almighty speaks swiftly. I speak with precautious. I'm always conscious. I'm like, okay. Y'all see when I take breaks and I pause, I even forget stuff. But I feel like I'm falling right back. I'm falling on track now. So there I go with the sideboards. Luckily, I didn't forget. So the Almighty did say that I'm going to need for you to use that same energy you used when you first got introduced to the mother of Christianity, apostolic. So I was like, okay, let me use this energy then, and curiosity. So if it wasn't for curiosity, my mom said, okay, we're going to church Sunday. I could have replied and said, I'm not going with you. You didn't ask me. You just going to tell me I'm going. But I didn't get angry with her, because I was, like I said, I was curious. So I'm like, okay, let me go. I went to church for the first time I was 15. That was the first time I ever stepped a foot in a church and called it my church home. That was my first church home. I never had a church home. So that was the first time. That wasn't the first time I ever stepped foot in a church, but that was the first time I got inducted into a church home. I never was grounded in a church. That was the first time I was actually grounded in a church. So my purpose of going was out of curiosity. Ooh, okay, I got the hiccups. Had to pause. Okay, the first time I went was out of curiosity. That was my purpose of going. The very first time before I stepped the foot, before I saw how the pastor, the first lady looked, that was my purpose. And it quickly changed after hearing one message. I'm like, I came in there saying, I'm going out of curiosity. And I left out saying, okay, I'm going to continue to go so I won't go to hell. Because that's the message that was preached that day. So, yeah, I was under fear-mongering, you all. I was under fear-mongering. And that is how, let me go back to it. That is how fearful, avoidant attachment developed in me that very given day. So I wasn't willing to learn about other religions. And I was not willing. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to hell. And it's not necessarily the saying, it's the delivering, the approach that was given that day. So I'm like, oh, I'm not, It's not that no one told me. It was the energy, the approach. So I was like, I'm good on that. And then eventually, like a few years later, 2 years later, probably 4 years later. No, a year later. Anyway, moving forward, as I kept attending the church, the pastor, he's a bishop now, the pastor at the time, definitely brought in information from the library of different religions. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I never thought to do it on my own. I wouldn't use the word thought. I never had the courage to do it on my own. And that was something the pastor encouraged. I'm like, he'd be like, do the research on your own. Don't take my word for it. And I'm going to tell you about that in Christianity or apostolic. I digress. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool that, you take the time out to investigate, to do research. And the purpose of doing that research was to say how the religious was wrong and how apostolic is right. And I'm just saying it in the simplest terms, okay? That's basically the pastor reason for doing it. So I'm like, okay, now I'm really not finna do research because I feel like I got all the research from the pastor. I don't need to step outside and do it on my own. I mean, you did it for me. Until I realized everybody have different learning styles. So, and different comprehension levels. I'm like, so even, because I used to be I had the mindset where if somebody do it for me, then I don't need to do it then. And it was like, a person could be looking at a 9 from their angle, and I could be looking at a 6 from my angle. And I'm like, so how do I know this to be true if I'm not testing the waters? Let me test this. And then the Bible that the Christians use, so I wish you Christians would. And when I say Christians, I'm talking about every branch of Christianity, just not apostolic, Baptist, Catholic. Oh yeah, I wish I would come for me, baby, because I come back. So when I say this, because some might, so some might feel some type of way. Testing the waters is in the Bible. Now it might be said differently because the Bible was written in and one Bible says juice. I said juice. One Bible may say Zeus. The other one might say Jupiter. Because those names in the Bible, if you got the King James, it's going to say Jupiter. And I forgot what scripture it was, but I go back to that when I go to Christianity, when I talk about Christianity. And I'm probably talking about it so much because that's the religion I have the most experience in. So, pardon me if I'm talking about it too much. But this is where Christians might feel some type of way. In one scripture, it says to, what is that? Search the scripture. Search the scriptures. So I'm like, okay, if I do that, if I take that as literal, and you can even take it as metaphorical, as like, and it even says, it's another scripture that says test the spirit. So, but it's like when you take the words as it is, people be like, why you do that? That ain't right. What you mean it ain't right? It's in the Bible. But what? Or when you're not doing it how somebody else do it, they'll be like, oh, that's wrong. How is it wrong? Because you perceived it a different way. We both looking at the same thing, but clearly we both don't have the same eyes. And when I say that, I'm speaking in general. This is me generally speaking. Because you have people like that. It don't have to be Christianity. It can be just people in general. Like I said, this is a general statement. And so let me make it broader then. Christians might not get offended by that, but anybody can get offended by what I just said. Testing the waters, testing the spirit, and, searching stuff for yourself. And I didn't always do that as a kid. I didn't always do as a soul overall, as a spirit. Let me correct myself. As a spirit overall, because there's a difference between spirit and soul. So I didn't always do that. I always depended on other people to do it for me. I'm like, okay, you investigate for me. I didn't have to tell them. They did it. I'm like, oh, okay, but since they did, I ain't got to do it. But it's like, no, I do, because I'm a kinesthetic learner. You may be a visual learner. You may learn things by what you see. I learn things by what I go through. So let me learn this thing on my own then. Because like I said, the angles may be different. Like I took geometry before. A lot of people should retake it or take it if they haven't took it. Message. So let me go to the other two, because I've been focusing on fearful avoidant attachment for a minute, more than a minute. So let me move on. Insecure anxious attachment. Oh, this one. Okay, I got an example. Say if you have a pastor that always threatening to leave and say, you ain't gonna find nobody like me. Find your own way to heaven, because I'm the best way to heaven. You gonna go to hell if I leave. Y'all gonna be doomed. That's insecure, anxious attachment to the congregation. Not necessarily the pastor, or maybe the pastor can have insecurity, and maybe this can be both ways. So when the pastor said that, the congregation may feel, oh, we need to do something. We need to change how the pastor feels so he won't leave or she leave. Because let me tell y'all, feminine pastors exist too, just not male. So what can we do? Oh my goodness, I don't want to go to hell. So you're moving off emotion rather than using your senses. And that can be very dangerous. You feel like you need to do any and everything to keep that religion, to not feel out of bound, out of place. You have some people who alcoholics or prostitutes, they feel like, oh, I'm not good enough to step a foot in there. They're going to look at me down, and I'm not going to attach myself to that because I'm not meeting up to their standards. Insecurity, anxious attachments is what that is. So I just wanted to talk briefly on that. And the last one, here's the last one, which is my favorite one actually, secure attachment. Now, in the beginning of this episode, I said my only attachment is what I inhale and exhale, which is air, the description of the Almighty that I glorify. So, and I just gave y'all the example of secure attachment. But I gave y'all the surface. So let me kind of give a little bit of detail before I end this episode. So, when you are secure to wherever you attach to, the fruit will be blossomed. There will be a glow to your fruit. Your fruit won't look, smell, taste rotten. You will be confident. Now, the weary side of secure attachment is feeling like you need to save everybody. You can't save everybody. Why? Because everybody, a lot of people not willing to be saved. I'm gonna reference Christianity again because, like I said, that's the most experience I have in religion. So there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Save yourself." If the Bible telling you to save yourself, why is you making it your duty to save others? Message. So if y'all didn't get anything else from this episode, please get that it's very important to save yourself, because deep down inside, if you really do want to save others, the best way to save someone is to first save yourself, and to be a documentary of what you have done, what tools you have used to get to the point of saving yourself. That's the best way you can save someone else, is to save yourself. For as everybody else, they got to be willing. Don't force don't force nobody passively. Don't force nobody aggressively. Don't force at all. You can be influence to someone, an influence to someone. That's possible. But don't be forcing nobody. That's not the way to go. That's not the way to go at all. So I'm going to say it again, just in case anybody forgot. Or, yeah, religion is a way of living. So if anybody asks me, what is religion to you? Religion is a way of living. It's deeper than just an ideology. Why is it an ideology? It's an ideology because it's a fragment of one's way of living realistically. Now, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to include this episode with this. Every religion is real. Yes, I said it. Every religion is real. Why? Because what I said real is practical. Practical is active. And with every religion I named in this episode, in the episode previous, has actions to show. Buddha, real. Hinduism, real. If it wasn't real, why is people moving in the way they move? Whether they attach or connected. There's action behind it. Where there's no action, there's illusion. Let me say that again. Where there's no action, there's illusion. That's the only way something can be false, if it's just within the mind. Once it's out of the mind, it's real, whether you like it or not. Love, peace, Kaddish.